just a few moments here. And hello. Yep. It's time for the next Patreon sculpt. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, the whole usual 9 yards. And say hello to my baby girl here. And any cubic photon. Magical miniature making machine. Alright, so, once again, we're waiting on people to show up in chat. Tonight's Patreon sculpt is a Dwarven Royal Guardsman. With mason, shield, and heavy armor, and he's a big old boy. So, when tonight's patron gets here, we'll get started. In the meantime, interesting thing happened this afternoon. My next door neighbors, they due west of me, to the left, I guess to the right if you're looking this way. They're from Mexico. They are not illegal aliens. Don't make assumptions. The mother and daughter came by because, well, the mother had heard that mom was having some issues and she wanted to know if mom wanted her to pray with her. I thought that was nice. Good neighbors make warm neighborhoods. Now, just as was said earlier, the figure we're going to be sculpting is a Dwarven Royal Guardsman in full heavy plate and scale. Now what that means is it's going to be a lot. And there's Citrain. There we go. Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm going to first make the shield and we got a round shield. I'm going to make the mace specifically for this character. And so to do that, I do this. There we go. This is 3D Studio Max. And what I'm going to do is I'm first going to import the base human figure. Yes, human. I know he's going to be a dwarf, but we start off with humans for everything in this. And it's... Oh, not props. There we go. That's mostly just for scale. We're going to make him that color and undo that and do that. So now no matter what, I can't select the figure because that locked it. Now I'm going to import another existing mace. Let's see here. Right-handed mace. Here is a classic flanged mace. Now again, this is going to be just for reference. We're going to slide it a bit that way. Okay, now we start off with the cylinder that will be used as the handle. There. Okay. Now we need to put this at 15.999. We're going to slide it back to here. And then we're going to increase the radius until it's about the same as the handle here. and then increase the height until it's about there. The rest of the head will be built on top of that. Now, we only need one height segment, 2 cap segments so that we actually get polygons there, and the sides are going to be 10. Of a poly. Now, do you want a pommel on this? Well, Citrain, it's not, maybe not for you, but I do have people who watch who want to see how I'm doing these. So there are people who are actually teaching themselves how to sculpt with my videos and some raw geo that I have made available at the higher tier of my Patreon. Do you want a pommel or not? It's okay. So do you want a pommel? Okay. Well, easiest way to do that is just to simply, By the way, you might recognize this as 2011 3D Studio Max. The reason being, that's the last time I actually bought 3D Studio Max, and by the time I had saved up to buy an update, which was a couple years later, they had switched to that incredibly stupid, tick-me-off subscription model, which I hate with a passion. Okay. Now, let's loop. And actually, let's bring it down this way. Let's make it more of a rounded pommel. Like a, not quite hemisphere, but pretty close. And that means that we're then going to select these 4 edges, loop, and we're going to chamfer them, say 0.001, and 2 edges. Get some really nice sharp edges there with those supporting edges. Okay. Now, let's bring this forward, make it about the same length as the existing flanged mace. And we can actually, it's 13.228 is where it needs to be. We can actually select the old mace and delete it. Now, one big difference, since I'm going to be taking it almost, after I pose it in Daz Studio, I'm going to be taking it into ZBrush with Dynamesh. I don't need to worry about making everything a single surface now. I can just slap things together and intersect them, and then Dynamesh it in ZBrush, and it becomes a single surface. Okay, now again, I'm not going to make it exactly the same as what the reference you gave me, because, well, I don't want to, get sued or anything like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with a box. About there. About there. Editable poly. Center. And then move this to negative 13.228. Now, bring it to about there. And let's connect and drag this up to about there. First things first, need to come out just a little, and then grab these up to there. Let's bring it down a little bit. Okay. And then just for the sake of easy changing, there. That just easily changed the center. And I'm just going to select all the edges and give it a single chamfer. Now, we're going to copy by rotation. One for 90. Then I'm going to select this and attach this one. And 180. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and select this. Let's give it a little collar down here at the bottom. Okay. And we're going to extrude it just a little bit. And then click there, loop, and we're going to make this bigger in the base. Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and select those, loop, chamfer. Okay. Then we're going to connect once up here. And we're going to bring it up to about there. And we're going to extrude to give it a nice little cap. Oh, I forgot. Forgot to click the... Okay, so we're gonna select those and loop, chamfer, accept. Okay, now we're gonna attach the flanges. This is the current shape of the mace. Will this do it for you? Is this hefty enough for you? Just out of curiosity, this is how it will look, all smooth and stuff. Okay. Well, we're gonna go ahead and let's delete the mesh smooth and attach the other flanges, and then we're gonna remesh smooth. Collapse all, and I'm gonna export this as an OBJ. That's one really kind of cool thing about doing it this way, by the way. Speaking as someone who's done a lot of mid-level, mid-polygon things, higher than game but lower than movies. Dwarf mace, and that's I can get, since most of the detail will be done in the sculpting anyway, I can just do basic raw geometry. And now we're going to switch to a different program. DAZ Studio. This is your the basic figure that I use. And just as an example, I've got it so that, let's say I wanted to load in, let's say, where's a good one? Let's say this basic horseman's hammer. When I load it, it also automatically poses the hand. Well, let's go ahead and delete the hammer, leave the hand as it is, and import the dwarf mace. Alright, And we paired it to the hand so that as we pose it, it moves properly. Now comes the fun stuff. Oh, that reminds me. He needs a beard. And he needs the bottom half of his tunic. Now, we go over here to races. These are all blend shapes. And let me show you why I decided to do it with this instead of doing it with Max. You know, they're your bones. I dial in the blend shape for Dwarf and watch the bones. Yep. Now obviously we're going to make that beard a lot bigger afterwards. But yeah. This, by the way, is not anything that comes with Daz Studio. I made the geometry myself in Max. And yeah, well, if I didn't want to be a dwarf, you know, I could have him be an ogre. I could have him be... And notice that the beard is morphing along with him. But when I go to the beard, right now it's only got dwarf and ogre. Oh, let's make a turtle. So now we have a turtle with no shell. And now when I go back to the beard, it has turtle. It morphs with it. It creates the morphs on the fly. The blend shapes. Alright, so this is our basic figure. The last thing that we're going to do is we do have to add in a round shield. And then we're going to... Is that a big enough round shield? Or is that too big? Now, Matt, it's a train's figure. He explicitly said a really big round shield that he could hunker down behind. Now, that is a really big round shield, and as you can see by the space on either side of the hand, I could make it smaller. In theory, I could do it about down to there, which is actually more appropriately a targ size for a dwarf. Or I can make it kind of in between. Still big, but not too big. No, Matt. This is going to be a dwarven royal guard shieldsman. He's... What do you want, baby girl? As in, he's not going to have really battle damage gear. He's going to have fine, sturdy battle gear. But it would get repaired and replaced the minute he needs it. Okay. So, to help with posing, I'm going to hide the mace and shield and beard and tunic. Okay. So, what we have right now is basically an A pose. And while it's close to a standing pose, it has problems. Let's pull up some of the basic poses I've got. Let's use the lower body stand here. No, legs are too close for a good, solid, sturdy dwarf. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select each foot. I'm going to pin the translation and rotation. Select the foot. Pin rotation. Select this foot. Pin translation. Pin rotation. I'm gonna drag the hips down just a little. Oh wait, before I do that, I've got to lock the side to side on the calves so that doesn't go too weird. Okay, now we're gonna kind of drag this foot over here and this foot kind of to the side and back a little. Now we're going to the front view, so I can make sure that the feet are going through the ground, are barely touching the ground plane. We're going to bring this foot up just a little, and we're going to bend it a little bit more. Yeah, perspective. That's the lower half. One thing about posing is that you got to make sure that your hips and shoulders aren't perfectly parallel. It can be a small amount, but you got to make sure that there's a little bit of twist and a little bit of bending going on. Otherwise, you're going to get some unusual... It's not going to look like a natural pose. Now, the mace... I do this on occasion. When I do a pose, I'll occasionally stand up and take it. Okay, so... the left arm, the shield arm, will be... we're going to twist it at the collar slightly. Back. We're going to go back a little bit that way and down a little bit. And then we're going to bend the forearm just slightly. And actually this means because of the going through, we're going to undo some of that bending here. And just to show you, that's the position of the shield after we do this. I'm going to rotate the shield just a little bit to give a little bit more room to where the shoulder armor is going to be. Now, we're going to actually have the mace visible for this. Alright, we're going to go back a little bit with the shoulder because he is, a bold guardsman. Going to go up a little. And then down, back, and we're going to twist just a little bit. A little bit of bend to be a bit more natural. And then side to side to lower the mace towards the ground. And actually we need to grab this guy, grab the blue. Yeah. Actually, no, we need to drop that shoulder too. And let's twist the forearm. Now, from the right-hand view, we'll be able to tell if it's going through the ground. And the mace is going through the ground, so we can bend it a bit more and twist it a bit, then undo some of the side to side from the hand. Okay, so now the next thing is the head. He's going to be looking straight dead ahead. And we're going to close that mouth because... oh, -4, not 4. Come on. Fuzzbutt, go. Good girl. Okay. Now, the expression will come later, although I'm assuming that being a dwarven guard, you want him to be grim. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the brows. We're going to twist them just a little bit that way. Symmetry, right to left. So, a bit sharper, as you can see. And then we make the beard visible. And the next thing is we're going to make the tunic visible. Now, the thigh has almost no twist on that side. We don't need to worry. Almost no twist. We don't need to tweak the tunic. Now, everything else we're going to be building out of the base geometry. The armor, the scale, everything. Now, the next thing is, I'm popping back here to ask you what's next, because we have bases. And these aren't the only bases. And this is further bases. Now, obviously, the panels right here in the bottom right and the diamond grid from the top left are sci-fi, and the three different metal grids and the alien terrain up there on the far left are fantasy. But we've got up here, we've got some fancy tiling, cracked earth, gravel, a magic circle, a cratered planetoid surface, and some marshland. And then here we have, cobblestone, fancy tile, a plain blank base, rough-hewn stone, wooden planks, and grass. Any idea so far on which of these bases sounds like what you want for him? By the way, both of these two sets of bases are on Thingiverse. I made them and uploaded them, so yeah. So, not this one, but the one up there. So you would want the one below the blank. The one below the blank is techno. Those are techno panels with circuitry underneath. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and this time I'm going to use this hand. Back to here. File, import. Bases. Ancient tile. Just to show you what it looks like, it's very patterned. It is more along the lines of he's standing on a mosaic. And then I would take it and lower it until it's there. And there. Oh, let's bring it forward a little bit more. So this one. Okay. Now the last thing is helmet or no helmet, and if so, what style? We have a couple different styles here that, we've got this one I don't like because it's not actually anything like anyone ever wore. We've got, you know, the old classic knight's helmet. We've got a jousting helmet. We've got a barbute. We've got a Greek helmet, and we've got a Viking helmet. I think we also have a couple others. Yeah, the old tin pot helmet, a sci-fi helmet we're deleting. Any preferences? Oh, while I'm thinking about it, we need this on it, on him. That basically covers up it gives a surface for the chest to have a breastplate. The middle one, the barbute. Okay, just to warn you about the barbute, I'm going to have to morph it to fit, as in proportion-wise. Because it's just a prop, it does not fit morphs. So, X scale, scale it up like that. We're going to Z scale it. There. And we're going to Z translate it a little bit. Oh, wrong, too much. Negative 0.2. And a little bit more Z scale. I don't think I like that on him. Most of the rest of them would actually, the helmet would, most of the other full head helmets that would cover up the beard. Yeah, let's try the Viking style. This is the one I used on my Dwarven Paladin. This is an actual historical Viking helmet. And we can, if we needed to, when it comes time to sculpt, we can grab the top and stretch it up a bit, that sort of thing. Make it pointier. So are we good with the pose and the add-on bits? No, Matt. No. Let's do one more thing. We're going to add on sabatons and leg plates. We're also going to add on a low tier pauldrons that we're going to modify, and arm plates. Okay. Now, that's how he is before we sculpt on anything. So, what we're going to do is we're going to hide the helmet, the mace, the shield, the beard, the tunic, the breastplate piece, the sabatons, and the base. Actually, let's load that in. The reason we're hiding them all is because when Daz Studio exports, it exports everything visible. File, export. We're going to create a folder for... Wait, I already got Dwarven Guard. And this is going to be DG body. Accept. Now we hide him and the breastplate bit. We make the helmet, the mace, and the shield visible. We're going to export this as DG props. Then we're going to hide them again. We're going to make the tunic visible. This is the next thing. File, export, DG tunic. Accept. Then we're going to make all of the extra armor bits visible. Now this is just the base. We're going to be sculpting on them so they won't look like this when we're done. Export, DG armor, accept. The beard, DG beard, and then the base. File, export, DG base. Okay, and of course, alright, that one's broke. There we go. Now, have you used, okay, a mohawk with that would be something added on in this stage, in ZBrush. Have you used ZBrush Citrain? I hate it when I do that. New document. No, I don't want to save changes. Import. DG body. Import, not export. Beard. Import props. And import base. Okay, yeah, we got everything. We're going to hide most of it. And what we're going to do here first, we're going to reduce that just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Okay. Meanwhile, something else to smooth out. That basically helps smooth out the chest so we can sculpt a better breastplate on. Frame out. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a nice little Wacom. This is actually my third Wacom. My first one was a mistake. Well, I say that because I'm not a classically trained artist. I don't do all my motion from the arm. I do too much from the wrist. It was too big for me. We're going to click this little button here so that all the brushes have a size memory. And we're going to inflate. And we're going to reduce it a little bit. And we're going to kind of inflate his brows. They won't necessarily be as visible through that helmet, but it'll be enough that what is visible will still carry the intent. We're also going to inflate the lip because we need it visible through the beard. With the beard visible, we're then going to grab Move tool We're gonna kind of move it down. So he's stern. Okay. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to take this, we're going to give it one more layer of subdivision so that we can then merge down. Okay. And then we're going to subdivide it. Wait, no, we got to do one last thing. Move topological. Make it bigger. We got to move that inside just so ever so slightly doesn't have a seam. Whoop. Here we go. Oh, no, I don't want that to come out. I want the tunic part to come out. Oh, I know what I did. I did that too. I did it too early. Let's auto group it. And subtool, and we're going to split masked parts. Yeah. I'm gonna pull this out so it's no longer in the buttocks. And then we're going to grab the top of it and pull it up into the body. Okay. Then what we're going to do, since I just remembered we're going to be putting scales on this part. Actually, yeah. We're going to export this as DG scale. Now why, you might ask, did I just do that? Well, because I'm coming back into 3D Studio Max. And we're going to hide frozen objects. We're going to import it. And then I'm going to select edges on this. One up, loop, split, delete. Here. Loop, split, delete. No. There we go. One more. All right. Now what we have here is obviously a, the armor skirt on the side, split. Now why did I do that? Because I don't like mapping in 3D Studio Max 2011. It's got issues. Instead, I use what's called UV layout. UV layout is so much easier for me to work with. And load that. drop, drop, display UV. We're going to flatten both of them just slightly, select, and run for a minute. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have both of these with facing upright. And we're going to kind of just a little bit that way. And auto fit off. It's not wonderful, but it's all we need for this. And we're going to save it. Dismiss and exit. Okay. Now we're going to insert another polymesh. This one we're going to import what we just did, that scale, and it sits on top of what we've had before, which is why it's got that scatter bit. We're going to go to geometry, modify topology, weld points, because it had those splits down the side. Now we're going to deformation, and we're going to inflate it by 2. Just enough to have them stick out, have it stick out a bit. Now we go to geometry, we're going to subdivide it until it's pretty high. You know, we're talking about 1.9 million, that'll do. We go to surface. We're going to be adding surface noise using the UV mapping we just created and an alpha map that I have of scales. Now, we reduced the basic noise there. We increase the strength a whole lot, and then we just shrink the scale. We need to make it large enough to be visible, but small enough to where it's reasonably... Okay, so a little bit larger. 0.25. That'll be big enough. Now there'll be a seam above and below, kind of like a trim seam. Now this looks like it's actually there. It's not. To actually get it there, we mask by noise. We're going to hide these guys. And then we're going to follow this to make a seam. Actually, we need to undo that because it's not. Stroke, lazy mouse, on. We're going to follow the seam here. It's probably going to be covered up by the hip armor, but seam there just in case any part of this that becomes visible. Okay. Now we're going to invert that. The masking, that is. And what will happen is we're going to take it, we're going to inflate it. So it's clearly scales. Okay. Then we're going to give it a 1-coat polish. Actually, no, I forgot to do something. Now we're going to give it a 1-coat polish. And then going back up to geometry and under modify topology, I meant to try and grab it, stroke it up, close holes. There we go. That's the scales on the armor kilt. Nice and simple, huh? We're going to hide it, because what's going to happen now is we're going to merge down. And then we're going to frame out, and we're going to subdivide it a lot. Then under Dynamesh, we're going to Dynamesh it at 768 resolution. I say that because that seems to give me the best return. Okay, we're going to undo that. Now we're going to move in, and we are going to smooth all of these little seams that are left over. Whether it's the chest for what's going to be the breastplate, or the waist of the tunic, and we're going to go ahead and run over this, and then we're going to hit the hotkey 1 about 3 times. So it'll repeat that. And then we're going to smooth out some of the excess areas that, yeah. Now we're going to continue to follow around and polish up these areas. Okay. Make sure we didn't get anything. Frame. Okay. Now, the next thing is we're going to make the armor visible. And before we blend it in, we're going to take these thigh plates that are poking through the hips and move them in. So, whoop. I need to have this be moved topological. Just kind of move it in. To represent it being, you know, actually fully covered by the mail. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do with move topological on, I'm going to grab this top part of this plate here. I'm going to pull it up and grab the bottom part and pull it down. And then that. There is a type of pauldron like that in the real world, but it's more often associated with samurai, but dwarves would have tower-like pauldrons too, I would think. Okay. So how does that look for the modified pauldrons? Okay, now one thing we are going to do with these pauldrons, I'm going to use polygroup auto groups. We're going to separate them from the rest of it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to inflate them a little bit, because right now there's a problem right underneath them. Inflate. Okay. Then, why did I do that? No, I meant to click this. Okay. Then we're going to use, where is it? Pinch. We're going to shrink the intensity down a lot and shrink the size down a lot. And I'm just going to give a little bit of a pinching along the bottom here. No, it didn't. It's too big. And let's increase the intensity a little. Okay. This is to kind of bring back the sharp edge of the armor that was lost when we inflated it. Now, a lot of the tools I'm going to be using, like what I did to make the scales, are relatively new in ZBrush. They didn't exist in some of the earlier versions. You can see how it looks a lot smooth, a lot sharper than the version over here. Okay. Okay, come on. And then there we go. Frame out. And now we're going to subdivide them a few. Go back to our body here, and we're going to subdivide it once. We're going to move the armor up one and merge down. Then we're going to come down to geometry and Dynamesh. Now that we've done that, we can come in and smooth out the various seams that are kind of scattered all over, like here. And here. And then right in here where the sabatons are. And then right in here. And right in here. Blend it in as one plate. Move. Like I said, we're just kind of smoothing everything out right now. So, sorry about getting quiet there. My brain just went got into smoothing, 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 smoothing. Let's keep smoothing, let's keep smoothing. Yes, I'm goofy. And yes, I still need to come up with what kind of goofy thing I'm going to say at the end of tonight's show. Okay. So that's that. Come around and do the back of the forearms and upper arms. And we need to come up with something to do to the elbow cops. Okay, we also do need to tweak the hands a little bit after we do all this. Frame. That's him currently. He needs a breastplate. Wouldn't you agree? So what's going to happen, I'm going to hide the breastplate parts, or the shoulder plates, just so I can get this good masking in. And I'm also going to turn off daggum lazy mouse on this. It's going to come in close and under and to there. The reason is because we're going to have our waist plate that's going to double as a belt come in. Actually, we need to kind of bring it up like that. The waist plate is going to double as a belt, and it's going to come up over the underside of the chest plate, because that's a thing that waist plates did. Now, and then we're gonna erase that and clean it up just a little bit. Okay, now okay. What I'm going to use to make the breastplate, and most of the other pieces we're going to be adding on here, is the extract tool. Extract duplicates geometry and then and then extrudes it both front and back a given distance. Alright, so go down, and 0.2 would be good for this. Extract, accept. No, we need to increase the left hand underarm bit, so delete. Thankfully, there we go. We can just go ahead and do it right from here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that'll do. Accept. Draw. And then draw again to undo the masking there. Now, one thing we're going to do real quick first. I'm going to shrink this. We're going to pull it in underneath so that looks like one piece. Okay. Make sure that we do it for these two. There we go. Now what that does, that gives us our basic plate. Now we're going to go down and we're going to dynamesh it at 256. We're going to subdivide it a couple times. Okay, now we'll go back up to the body and we're going to turn on, thank God for autosave, that was what you just saw. Turn on transparency. We're going to shrink this again. And we're going to draw on our lower plate. Now the reason we did that is because that's what, contrary to a lot of fantasy art, the waist plate fits over the breastplate. Because what happens is your waist plate slides back and forth on top of the breastplate. Erase that. And then that allows for articulation while maintaining defense. Now we're going to come up here and we're going to sharpen this bit of the waist plate. Now the way we're going to get this to be on top of the breastplate is we're just going to extract it at a thicker amount. 0.035. Accept. Draw. Draw. And just to see. Yeah. What we need to do now, yeah. We're gonna bring it down a bit more so that we're covering the top of that mail. Just to make sure that we're covering the whole thing. Okay. And then here. Because what this will do is this will give us our alright, now we'll extract it. This will get deleted. Turn off transparency. Like the breastplate and the waist. Extract. Cancel. This is what I want. Extract. Accept. Okay. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to grab the move. No, I can do it with the regular move because it's... And we're going to kind of pull it out just a little bit more up top. Just to kind of emphasize that it's there. Okay. Now we frame out. And our guy's in full heavy plate right now. We need to add in a bottom trim on the waist, but So what are you thinking so far? And welcome, Kim! Now we need to add detailing, at the very least, to the pauldrons and the waist plate. Well, the gloves are pretty much, they're already on there, as you can see. But the main places we need to put detailing are on the pauldron. No. We do have to make the beard. And what we need to do, first of all, is shrink, or not shrink, but smooth this part of the beard. Then we're going to grab and move it until it's nicely covering a large chunk. Because this is a Dwarven royal guard. He's going to have an impressive beard. So we need to kind of pull it out, and starting down here, we're going to kind of have to start inflating it a bit because we're stretching it pretty thin. Yes, I don't think the breastplate will need much detail because it's going to be covered by beard. And then inflate, and we're gonna kind of make it bigger, and we're just gonna make it a little bit thicker here because it's a big bushy beard, big impressive royal guard beard. Okay, we're gonna detail the beard later, but as you can see, we don't really need to do much detailing on the chest piece. And the waist plate, yes. Oh yeah, braids are easy. So, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make this easy on the waist plate. I'm just going to bring this out. I'm going to zoom in. And the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to use a cloth seam brush, odd as it sounds. To differentiate between, to add a layer of trim. What was that? Huh? And then come up to here. And then we're going to do the same thing, but we got to go in the opposite direction down here. We're going to do the same thing for detailing on the back plate and the pauldrons. I've learned that you can identify people who play way too many MMOs because they'll call an entirely cloth outfit armor. Side little note there. Okay. gives us a visible trim. And now, do you want more Viking runes, or do you want geometric shapes as your primary detailing? Okay, so what we're going to use for the runes, we're going to use the Orb Cracks brush. Make it a little bit smaller. Turn off Lazy Mouse. Make it a little bit deeper. Do you have a name for your Dwarven King? Because what we can do is we can write his name in runes across the waist plate. While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and draw on the trim on the pauldrons. So we go back to seam 16. We're going to start off to there, to there, and then we're going to go down to there. We're then going to come from this side. We're going to come down this way, down and across to here, and up, and then down and across to there. This gives us a couple, 3 different panels to work with when we come time to actually... no. Here. And then down. And across and up. And then had to do that because I screwed it up. And there we go. Trim on that pauldron. We're going to be putting runes and inscriptions into those panels. Now we're going to draw across to here. Down. Around. And then there. And we're going to do it here. No. Okay. And there we go. We got the panels on the pauldrons ready. Okay. Well, since we don't know the name of the king, we're gonna write Jarlsgard into the wasteplate. Okay. So I hit the wrong button. That's what I needed. Okay, so we're going back to orb cracks. Why? A. Oh. A. R. L. S. G. A. R. D. Jarlsgard. One thing I'm going to do while I'm thinking about it, let's increase the intensity a little bit. And we're going to add in a seam on the sides of the waste plate. To show that, you know, like, this is where it separates as two different pieces. Because again, they did. Okay. There. Now, what kind of thing do you want to put into the panels on the pauldrons? Because we can put all sorts of things into these pauldrons. Just remember, they're large on the pauldron, but they're relatively small from the point of view of they're going to be that big on the figure. So tell them, you know, just imagine something about half the size of a Space Marine chapter emblem is about the best things that you can put in here. We don't want Thor's hammer because that's a very Earth thing. Thor's hammer is a very Terran thing. But a straight up hammer, again, we have 3 panels. And the center panel is long and thin. We could have the hammer on one panel, and then we've got 2 other panels to work with. And I think an axe actually might fit better because of the shape of the panel, and we can put an opposite one over here on the back side. I like the idea of a weapon, either a sword or an axe, or like an axe on the front and back panels, and in the center a piece of knotwork. Because the Vikings also used knotwork, it wasn't just the Celts. Okay, unlike the runes in the waistplate, this is going to be done by, I'm going to draw on the, first I'm going to subdivide it once. So I can do more detail with this. What I'm going to do, what the heck? Yeah. Forgot because I stressed. And there we go. Alright. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to a different one that I'm not going to use much. Let's say Pen Shadow. I'm not going to use that much, but I'm going to use it to come in here. I'm going to draw on the mask. The mask will be inverted and then extruded. So let's try on Lazy Mouse so we can make these shafts pretty straight. I'm gonna pull this. Okay. Then we're gonna kind of bring it. We're gonna make it a bearded axe. I'm going to draw in, fill this in. What's going to happen is we're going to use this as the basis for extrusion, not extraction, but inflate. We're going to inflate it out so it's layered. And there we have our first axe. This side doesn't look like it'll fit an axe. Any suggestions for the backside, since it doesn't look like it'll fit an axe? Hey, Fuzzbutt. Come on. Yeah, get over here. Get over here. Now. Good girl. Who says cats don't obey orders? I was saying that this panel doesn't look like it'll fit the axe well because of its shape. So I was thinking on this side and on the opposite equivalent, doing something slightly different, just more of a geometric, more of a abstract shape. You know, just kind of a and then come in here, fill this all up. It's kind of axe-like, but more geometric and more abstract. But it's going to basically do what we need to fill in this space. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And come up like that. Down. There. There. Dadgummit, why does it do that? 1, 2, 3, 4. No. There we go. A little bit longer. And then we come up here and we follow to here. No. There. Up to here. And then to here. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We erase. No, that's too big. There we go. Erase across here and here, and here and here, and then here and here. That will be our knotwork. That will be what will be on these panels. So I'm going to go ahead and invert the selection. Inverse. And now let's see how far out we should really need to push these. So inflate, and push them out. That's a little bit much. $15, that's good. Oh, she listens. She's just usually asleep. Aren't you, baby girl? Yeah. Sure that we deselect. Why did I do that? I forgot that happens. Okay. Geometry. Subdivide. Delete lower. Now we're going to draw on an axe over here. Now this axe is not going to look as... Actually, yeah, this axe is not going to look as nice because it's a different shape. So instead, what we're going to put here... We're going to put... something shaped like a spearhead. So... I'm going to draw on... Yeah. See, the spearhead for the Vikings was almost leaf-shaped. And we're going to turn off the lazy mouse to fill this in. We're also going to now erase a big hole here so that we can put in what will be a rivet. Okay, now there we go. That will be a spearhead. And on this side, how about an anvil on this side? This way we get multiple different shapes for multiple different, representations of the whole. No. And then drop it down a little for the point. Let's go ahead and turn off lazy mouse so we can fill this in. Then we'll add in the detailing for the drawing. And then it's going to be the same kind of knotwork in the center panel. Okay, now, first things first. Up. Over. Down. Over. Okay, Now we're going to come on back over here, just for the sake of making sure we're getting the mouse. Yeah, that's about the right size. Okay. Now, no. There we go. Whoops. And then from here we're going to bring it down across and do our little cut to make it overlay. There. Okay. So now we come back down to masking, invert, deformation, and it's going to be 15 to be the same size as the previous. Frame out, and here's what we have so far. Not counting the back plate has nothing on it, and the beard hasn't been done yet. But we got time. Okay. Next thing that we're going to do we're actually going to draw on a seam here to make sure that we cover up the bottom edge of those scales so that they don't look as bad. Okay. We have to have the transparency here on to draw underneath another subtool. Otherwise, it blocks the path of the pen. And okay. Alright, there we go. Turn off transparency. Frame. And we're going to extract at 0.35. And accept. I said accept, draw, or just a generic geometric shape. One, two, three, four, 5 different instances of Firefox with multiple tabs each. Discord, Daz Studio, ZBrush, 3D Studio Max, XSplit, the program for streaming this, webcam control, a notepad, don't know why, and this huge long quick start bar that I've started that has everything from my programs for work to Elder Scrolls Online. Okay, what we're going to do with the back, we're going to do the extrusion detailing instead of engraving it in. So, let's frame. We're going to, yeah, here is the back. Frame it. Zoom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this. I'm going to go ahead and draw on some generic kind of let's make it a knotwork piece. Oh, no. Wait, let's do it as a basic knotwork piece here. A simple one. And then what we're going to do, we're going to erase lines across here, and then 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 here, and there we have a nice little bit of knotwork. Once you understand the patterns of knotwork, it's not as hard as you would think. Invert, deformation, inflate 15. Okay. Now let's frame out. So now we need to do the beard. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to subdivide it a lot. And then we're going to dynamesh it at 128. And subdivide it again. We've got to put one big braid down the center, and then the rest of it's going to be locks. Okay? So that means that we're also going to use the move tool. I'm going to shrink it a little. Grab the center to make it do that. It kind of covers up the seagull from Jarlsgard. That's actually kind of good in today's political environment. Then we're going to go to clay buildup, and we're going to switch from the square to the round alpha. We're going to shrink it down and increase the intensity. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off okay, not intense enough. This is the beard. This is the braid. And then we're gonna have a cross there, and then like that. And what we're going to do now is, before we do anything else, we're going to the slash brush. Z-sub of about 14, 15. Turn off lazy mouse and shrink it. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow the basic outline of these things. That's not large enough. Yeah. And then there. And then we're going to kind of just do this little here very lightly. That is our central hat. And then, just to emphasize it, we're going to inflate. I'm going to shrink down to about there. We're going to follow each of these bits. There we go. Nice, clearly visible braid. And then with back to slash, zoom out, we're going to follow along here and here and bring this down to there. And then we're going to come down from in between them to make our basic locks in the beard. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to add, but dropping this down to 8. And what we do, we're going to come down the length of this one, come back up, and we're just kind of drawing not so much hairs as kind of the erratic locks that you get. Hairs tend to clump, so we're drawing the clumps, not the hairs. Now, the reason why there's both grooves and ridges in the hair, some people like to do a wash over hair, some people like to do a dry brush. So doing this, we get both. We've got the ridges for the people who dry brush, and we got the grooves for the people who wash. We're going to give a little bit of slashes to the back of the head. but that's mostly because it's coming out of the helmet. Okay, now let's frame out, zoom out, and then let's make the various other bits visible. Alright, we need to hide these. And now it's going to be time to let's go ahead and add the little rivets on top of the gloves, as well as we need to increase it 10. Seal that off right there. We're going to do the same thing over here with this one. I hate it when it does that. Okay. Now, we're going to look, and we want to make these smaller, and let's bring that focal shift down. Okay, so we're going to start with the knuckle studs, because that'll help us judge how large we need to make these. Okay, so let's increase the intensity and increase the focal shift. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About these on this side because they're going to be underneath the plate, but we still need to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frame. Okay, make these visible, and it's subdivided a little bit. And this is what we currently have. So how does that go for your Guardian? Before we solidify everything, do you want anything on the shield? Or do you want the shield to be have the whatever emblems or whatever painted on? I'm of the mindset that the emblems should be painted on, because shields are the most disposable part of a warrior's battle kit. You might not think it, but yeah, a shield is the most disposable part of a warrior's battle kit. Alright, so all we have to do now is bring it down to a single item, and that'll be it. So let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Hey. This is our dwarf. Normally keep my Wacom behind my monitor, but we are at 2.792 million points. I'm going to come in here now, and one thing I need to do, I'm going to use a very thin Orb Cracks 2 to, well, to emphasize the mouth. And then smooth the upper lip. Okay. Anyway, now that we have the basic, it's now a single solid surface, but it's 2.828 polygons. That's not good. So what we do, we have to decimate. And Decimation Master, it's really detailed. I'm thinking we might want to go with 150,000 triangles. Click. And now it's going to bring an orange bar up here, or up top on top. Well, I get soda. And if it ever goes to computing, please wait, that's a problem. My most useful and used 3D print ever. I've used it for about 1.5 years now. Okay, it's processing well. And 90% now. And excellent. It did not go into that flawed, that bug. So from 2.828 million polygons, it is now 150,115, and unless you zoom in, you can't tell. It's at 5% of the polygons it used to have. So, we're now going to export this. Patreon Minis, new Dwarven Guard. Simply call this Dwarven Guard figure. And it'll export as an OBJ format. Now here's the thing. That OBJ format, after the show, I'm going to be going ahead and cleaning up and make sure there's no holes in the geometry, and converting it to STL format. Okay? And now we come back to the screen. Okay. Yeah, we can. Let's go back to this. And let's undo the decimation. Now, what do you want to do to the weapon? Oh, we got it here. If you're sure. Because, yeah. Basically... Hello, Omerta! You just missed a big, nasty... Dwarven Royal Guard. Yeah. The thing is, with the decimation, the resolution on the sides here would get very low. Now I've already saved it out with the decimation, so you could probably paint on details onto the sides of the flanges because they are large enough and broad enough. So let's go ahead and back to here. Well, okay, so, that was the Royal Guardsman. Both sculpts today were a little overlong. This one not as bad as the previous one. So, what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask you to, on the Discord, private message me your email, and after the show I'm going to clean up the file and copy it as an STL, and then render it, create an image of it, and send you the render, the STL, and the OBJ. Okay, now, since I have 6 people watching, I may as well go ahead and let y'all know. I am very close to being finished with something very important. Specifically, the Titans of Legend Kickstarter. Yeah, you can't see me right now, but you can see Grendel, Beowulf, Roland, Argus, Farragut, 2 Saracens, a dire Cape Buffalo, Cormoran, 2 Basahuan, and 2, right over here, casualties. As well as hinges and other standing stones, and a ruined tavern wall. Omerta, I was just letting Citrain know to DM me his email address because the Royal Dwarf was his sculpt. Anyway, this plus a set of where is it? Furniture for a Viking longhouse. Notice the complex knotwork and the knotwork on the sides are all getting ready for a Kickstarter release. Giants of Myth, Titans of Legend. So, it is now 12 after 10 my time, and I'm going to go ahead and hold up my hand and count down from 5 to 1. No, I'm going to get some soda first. My throat's getting dry. Yes, it is on my Thingiverse. I'm going to hold up my hand, and I'm going to count from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, I'm going to say something kind of goofy, and then sign on out for the night. Tuesday, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up with something. Okay. The sculpt will not be public patron sculpts for the first week are only for the patron. Only he and I have them. And then they go into the file vault, which is only for the patrons as a whole. The patron sculpts never go to Thingiverse. They never go fully public. Okay. So, that's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Kitty, kitty, kitty! Yay! You sweet little kitty. Bye-bye.